Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Let's say you are a rock musician and you just wrote a nice melody and you want to put some chords under this melody. And what you find is that there are a lot of books and tutorials on how to put chords that sounds like classical music under your melody, and a lot of books on how to put chords under your melody that sound like jazz. But there is very, very little on how to choose chords to put under your melody that sound like rock. You, as a rock musician, have been left out in the cold because everybody is studying classical theory or jazz theory, and very few people are studying rock theory. Indeed, even the mention of rock theory makes people go like, there is no rock theory, okay? There is rock theory, okay? So how do you go about that? How do you find chords that will sound good in your style and not in classical music and jazz? Again, assuming you are a rock musician. If you're not a rock musician, that's okay. You may have other resources. But if you're a rock musician, who can help you? Well, a student of mine asked me how to go about all that, how to harmonize, how to find the chords, rock chords for a melody he wrote. And this is the answer I gave him.
If I have a melody, how can I build a chord progression out of that melody?
Great. Fantastic question. How to harmonize a melody? The first thing to do is to think that the opposite of the chord tone soloing. So let me explain. Chord tone soloing is when you have a chord progression and you want to write a melody on top, and you're going to use preferentially, not exclusively, the notes of the chords. So if you are soloing on a C major chord, the notes are C, E, G, preferentially you're going to hit a C, an E, or a G when you solo over that chord. Okay, you can hit any note in any key, okay, literally anything, but those are going to be used way more frequently, okay? And when the chord progression, the chord changes, so you have a chord progression, your set of preferential notes keeps changing, okay? Now, preferential notes I'm saying right now, it's technically consonances of the chord, blah, 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 okay? You do the opposite if you have a melody. You have a melody, you find chords that preferentially contain that note in the melody, okay?
All right.
That's, again, first approximation, okay? There's plenty of songs out there that don't respect that. So this is not a rule, okay? This is not that you have to do it, and this is not a way to judge if you're doing a good job or not, okay? Plenty of songs that do the opposite. But most music, in most styles, does that, so it's a good starting point. Making sense?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, if your melody is in a major or minor key, you can harmonize every single note in that key using only chords 1, 4, and 5. Because once you write the notes of the first chord, the notes of the fourth chord, the notes of the fifth chord, you cover the whole scale. You have 2 choices for the first and the fifth, and 1 choice for everything else. Right?
Yes.
So that makes it easy, right? Good. You have a melody in mind?
Can I borrow a melody from an existing song?
Yeah, totally.
All right. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah.
What song is that?
Bloodbound by Hammerfall.
I'm not familiar with that. You guys know the song? You do? Okay, so. And then?
And then it goes down 2 steps. And then you repeat it again, and that's basically the opening lick to the song.
Okay. And you're in E flat there.
Yeah.
The first note is an E flat. Okay. Do you want to stay in E flat?
Yeah.
Fantastic. You're in E flat minor. Now the worst keys for guitar. I don't know the song. I haven't the faintest. I'm doing my harmonization here. So if this does not sound like the song, it's not meant as disrespectful, and it's not that I cannot transcribe it. I don't never heard the song, okay?
Okay.
But what I will do personally in this situation, I'm having those 3 notes. And those to me sound the 1, 2, and 3 of a minor key. And the first thing that I would put in a rock or metal context would be, I'm harmonizing the first repetition with the first chord. So, and the second repetition with the sixth chord.
Okay.
So in this case, it would technically be C flat. It's like a B. Okay.
All right.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
I mean, does it sound like the song, or is it different? Or
Yeah, it does sound like it.
And then you were saying is going down 2 steps.
2 steps, yeah.
So he's hitting the 7th note, the flat 7 note of the key, which I would harmonize as the flat 7 chord.
Yeah.
Okay, which in this case is D flat. Okay, now what am I doing? I'm doing 2 things. 1, I am trying to match the notes in the melody with the notes in the chord. 2, I picked up the style of the song, okay, which you can tell from the melody, okay, and I'm trying to use a typical chord progression for that style. It's very typical for most metal to have a chord progression like first chord, if I say, okay, first chord of the key minor, flat 6th, flat 7, back to 1, or any combination thereof.
Yeah.
Or, okay, you can practically rewrite all the Iron Maiden discography using these 3 chords. Okay. Which again, I mean is a compliment to Iron Maiden, because it takes a lot of creativity to do nearly all the songs in the discography with the same 3 chords and do occasionally the 4th. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to match those 2 things. If you were telling me this was a jazz song, or you played it in, okay, it would have been a different chord progression. Okay, I would have harmonized in a different way. Indeed, I wouldn't have think this as a minor chord. I would have think this and something like that. I would have started with a major chord with a sharp 11. I would have reharmonized those 3 notes with a different note, so that this would sound like a major chord with a sharp 11. Meaning I would have used, in this case, the C flat note immediately. The first note is the major third of the chord, and that's the 5th, sharp 4th, 5th, and then it would have gone down not diatonically or something like that, to create a more typical chord progression for jazz.
All right.
Okay, so I'm trying to match those 2 things. So how do you do it? 1, learn a few chord progression typical of the style you like. I mean, you already do. If you learn a few songs, you're already doing that. It's really, there's not nothing special. Learn a few songs, you're gonna find patterns. Remember those. Think of them not as, I don't know, A minor, F, G, but as the first chord of the minor key, the flat 6 chord of the minor key, so that it doesn't matter in what key you are, you can spot out the patterns in all the keys. 2, match the note of the melody to the note of the chord, and see if you take one of those typical chord progression and your melody, is there any match, not only on the single chord, but on the whole progression. Okay? So it takes a bit of knowledge to do that, and a bit of trial and error, but that's how you do it.
All right.
Okay? Now, occasionally you're gonna find that you take a typical chord progression of the style you like, you have a melody, there is really not a match in theory, but when you play it, it still sounds okay. Even if the note becomes dissonances, it still sounds okay. That's good too. Okay. It doesn't we have to satisfy the theory, and sometimes the notes can temporarily be dissonances over a chord, and then they become consonances on the next chord or stuff like that. And so sometimes the match doesn't seem to make sense at first, but it makes sense musically. Okay. So sometimes just pick a typical chord progression, slam it under the melody, and see if it works. You'll be surprised how many times it works. It's crazy.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's pretty much how you do it.
Okay.
There is always more than one way to do it. Always, always, always. If none of these work, then go back to the first thing I was saying. You try to harmonize using 1, 4, and 5 only. So in E flat minor, that's the first.
Yep.
But I also said that you have a choice on the first note, because you can also harmonize it with the 4th, I guess. Yeah, with the 4th. So you're gonna have that will work work too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm always landing on this first note of the key. And I have two choices, so I pick first one and then another.
Right.
Okay. Of course, you can also harmonize literally every single note. It depends how many chords you want in your melody, okay?
Yeah, I personally like to try to stick with like the target notes.
Yeah.
Notes, because that's what's being emphasized on the emotion side.
Yes, you can totally do that. So it depends how many chords you want. Sometimes you want a chord per note, so the chords are changing really fast, so you just keep changing. But most often, you have to decide which one are the important notes in your melody and which one you want to support, and you ignore everything else, like you were saying. Okay, so those are the guidelines.
All right.
The rest is experience, essentially.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah. On a side note, the melody note doesn't matter if it's like a root, the third, the fifth of the chord.
Could be any.
Okay.
Could be any. Could even be the seventh. Occasionally, it's even a dissonance. That's what I was saying. Occasionally, see if the chord progression is very strong and the melody is strong, even if they don't go perfectly together, it may still work. That's the idea.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.